So I just invite you all, before we start and introduce our speakers, I'd like you please to put your feet flat on the ground if you can. And what I would love you to do is sit, maybe uncross your arms and just sit in a comfortable position. Close your eyes if need be, and just get a sense of the earth below you. Get a real sense of the ground that is holding you, and really connecting with the energy of the earth. Connecting with that earth energy that holds us, that keeps us steady, that grounds us. And just get a sense of that grounding as you connect to the heart of Mother Earth. Really feel her heartbeat. Feel her unconditional love as it comes up your roots, up your legs, up your base, and into your spine. And just allow that beautiful energy to flow in and around your spine. Allow that earth energy to hold you safely in this incarnation. And I invite you just to affirm, I am grounded. As we center with that beautiful grounded energy in our heart, I invite you to go up to the highest point of light that you can connect with. And just feel that energy, that vibration higher than ourselves, that source of all creation. And as we connect to that energy, we bring that beautiful energy down, 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 down into our heart space. The bridge between heaven and earth. The place where we can remain neutral. The place where we can relate to from our grounded and centeredness. And as we open our hearts, I place our meeting of connection tonight in a beautiful bubble of protection. And as we connect with one another at our heart space, I just invite us to feel that unconditional love for ourselves, just feeling that unconditional love of source and earth flowing in and around our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, and just feeling us as we expand ourselves to connect with our spiritual body and to source. And as we feel that expansion, I invite you to let go of the fear, the anger, the resentment, and the shame as you center in your heart and focus of sending energy to our species right now, to all those other human beings. They are beings, and from a place of neutrality, we send love and healing to the anger, the conflict, the wars, the suffering in our world today. Just acknowledging this time in our lifetime, and just knowing that we can send love and healing to all of our species. And I invite you, please, to check your grounding, center in your heart, and start bringing yourself back into the core. And as we check our grounding and we center in our hearts, another big warm welcome to those people who have just joined us. Please write in the chat where you're from, and we will be introducing the speakers. Soleil's going to take over and introduce our speakers tonight. or not our speakers, our conversationists. We really want to have a conversation tonight, not this formal kind of, we want to have a chat as though you're kind of sitting in our living room with us. So Sole's going to create that energy and create that vibe. As always, please pop questions in the chat as we go along, and also we will try and answer those at the end. But let us just flow with the evening from a beautiful heart space.
Thank you, Cindy, and welcome everyone. My name is Sole. If we haven't met before, I'm one of the tutors at the School of Intuition and Healing, and I run my own energy healing practice. And I am well known to be a champion of change. I always like to break and remake things. I like to experience something new all the time, but the truth is it can be exhausting. And sometimes change is not the change that we necessarily invite in our life. It happens. And as it happens, we need to figure out how we exist in the world as humans, as spiritual beings, as healers, as mothers, sisters, daughters, friends, etc., etc., etc. So this evening is, when we pulled together this talk idea, our intention was very much to bring together a group of friends and to sit in a virtual living room or virtual kitchen around the kitchen table and just chat and be honest about change and what it means and how it affects us, and the techniques that have been working for us, the techniques that haven't been working, and kind of offer a perspective that is perhaps the opposite of what you see online, the opposite of what you see on social media, just real stories of extremely strong, resilient, stubborn women, but also women that are vulnerable and don't always get it right, as sometimes need a little bit of time to figure out what's next. So we have beautiful guests and friends this evening with us, and so let me introduce them to you before I go into questions and start chatting about things, because I can already tell I have so many things that I want to ask them and discuss with them. And once again, welcome to everyone. Thank you for sharing your location in the chat. It's always so lovely to see you all. That's lovely. Thank you. Okay, so let's start off with Dunia. Dunia Mauro actually is dialing in from Rome in Italy. She is an artist. She works through the medium of sculpture, installation, video, and collage. She's also a writer of especially short stories, and she is an intuitive. She works as an intuitive and a psychic, and interestingly enough, she does a lot of work one-to-one, but also focusing on collective energies. So it would be interesting to hear from Dunia how perhaps some of the readings that she does for collective energies then perhaps resonate in her own life as she goes through to change. And she's also a student at the school a student of the healing course at the school. So welcome, benvenuta, Dunia. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for letting me be here. It's a pleasure to be here and talk to all of you. Tell me, Sole. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was going to say, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Thank you. I was surprised by this invitation, but then I thought maybe I needed it.
Good. So I'm going to get back to your surprise in a moment. And I will circle back to that because I think that's an important point that you're making already. And then we have the beautiful Cherise Reed, who is a conscious mother, an accredited spiritual counselor, holistic healer, and a writer. We have lots of artistic, creative energy with us this evening. She works on empowering individuals to unlock their inner wisdom through a number of integrated healing modalities. her work has been incredibly transformative to her clients and herself, having known her for some time right now. So she is in many ways an expert of change, in her own professional and personal life. Welcome, Cherise. No?
Couldn't unmute myself there. Hello. Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you. I love what you said, Dunya, about the surprise, you know. It's like it's the subject already in terms of being here and navigating that. I won't say any more, but yes, hello and thank you for having me.
Hi. So let me give you a bit of a backstage insight on how these talks tend to happen. Either Cindy or I come up with an idea, we get a sense for what's the overall collective energy from chatting with our clients, with our students, with other tutors, just tapping into universal energy, and we just message each other saying, oh, I think we should talk about this. This feels important. Have you been experiencing this? So we're talking about this issue, and then we kind of said to each other, it can't really always be the two of us. We need some interesting stories, some different people contributing to this. Like people know all our skeletons in the closet at this point. Like we need some different stories. And I said to her, like, I have the receipts, there are WhatsApp messages about this. And I said, I think we should invite these two women. And I'm telling you now, they're going to be surprised that we are asking them to come and join us, because they're going to say, I don't think I have my own shit together. So why are you asking me to come this evening? And so I think that's a reflection that perhaps we can start from, and starting from like, what change is going on in your life right now, and how do you feel about it? Who wants to start? Go on, Dunya, tell us.
Yes, I was unmuting myself. Let's drop the bomb here. Well, the past few months have been really, really difficult for me. In February, my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer, and she died in June. And I went through 4, let's say, very shocking months. I mean, between when she was diagnosed and when she died, it all happened really quickly. And I can describe somebody's death, especially a parent's death, because now I have the experience. I never experienced that before, so I didn't know how I would feel. I can describe that as an earthquake. It was like an earthquake in my life, and an earthquake within the family, because it hasn't shaken just my life, but also my sister's life, my father's life, and we all find ourselves without a very strong pillar. I mean, my mother was holding the family together, and we're realizing that now. And what I can say is that before these events, I would have said that change is always positive. I mean, I had a very positive thought about change, positive idea. But now I can just say, going through all this mourning process, I can say that change feels very chaotic and very traumatic. Because my mother's death has also been the beginning of a process, because loads of other things happen afterwards. I find actually quite interesting that you asked me if the work with my client, you asked me, you were mentioning something about the work with my client. Now the one-to-one work, the psychic readings I do for people, I had to have a break after my mother's death because it was too much. And I thought I wasn't grounded enough to do my psychic work. So I had to stop working for a month. And I knew that as soon as I started again, I would get clients with the same issue. And that's exactly how it went. The first client I had, the lady I had as a first client, when I went back to work, told me, I'm going through an awful time. My mother just died. This was the first client I had after a break. So, and there I realized how shocking my work is, in a way, that at times I really do get clients that mirror my situation, or I mirror their situations in a way. But I mean, going back to my story, my mother's death wasn't the only thing. So I had loads of other things happening one after the other, no? Apart from understanding how to deal with my father and his depression. So, and that's tough because my father is now 78 and he finds himself alone for the first time. I mean, he had been with my mother for 60 years, so I cannot even imagine that 60 years together. So I'm dealing with that. And then my mother's cat got ill. My mother's cat got cancer. And I had to follow the disease of this little animal that slowly died. And it was really upsetting because it represented the end of a cycle, another end of a cycle, and another reminder that my mother was not there anymore. And then I had financial issues, and everything added up to the point that one morning, and this is the end of my story, I couldn't get up from the bed. And I couldn't get up because I had to have a scan on my lower back, and they discovered that I had a slip disc. So I had to deal with that as well. And at that moment, I felt, okay, this is a bit too much. I don't think I'm handling that well. In July, I actually thought, my mother died in June. In July, I thought, wow, I'm actually handling this quite well. Everybody told me, you're handling this quite well. And in September, I started to feel a bit depressed. I realized that actually my mother was dead. It wasn't just about accepting death, because I do accept death. I mean, my work in a way is somehow related to death. I do accept death, but I realized in September that I was getting depressed because of it. And that's when I couldn't get up from bed. So I thought, okay, this is too much. It's getting too much and maybe I'm not handling well. And so I also started to ask for help, just to say how my story went. And how overwhelming it became, and how I understood that change can be traumatic and is actually never perfect. It can be as imperfect as possible. I would say it was very messy for me. So.
And what's interesting to me is that it doesn't matter how much of a spiritual person we are, how much we know that it's part of the process, that there is an afterlife, that it's all part of the bigger picture, that there is healing available to us. It helps, but it also doesn't help at all while you are in that moment. So I'll come back to you with maybe questions about some of the things that worked for you and how maybe things started shifting. But I wanted to ask Cherise the same question around what change you're going through. And I know from what you said earlier before we started the call, that you said, I don't even know where to start. There is so much change. I don't even know how to describe it.
Oh, Sola. Honestly, I just want to say condolences to you, Dunya, though. That was really touching, you know. I'm really, sending my love to you and your family at this time. I feel like it has been so overwhelming this summer in particularly. I don't feel like I can name the changes. There just has been so many different ones, and it's in different areas. It's in my home life, my children, navigating the change in my work, and also finances and living circumstances. And as a person who gets overwhelmed, I felt like I was failing it at everything. You know, I didn't feel that I was resourced enough to navigate what was happening. You know, and I find change rocky and profound and transforming, you know, on so many levels. But sometimes I think with this work and being so highly sensitive, it can be easy to bypass, you know, use spiritual bypassing to not really feel through what is going on. So yeah, I think it's really been much about gaining resources to support myself, and I know we'll go into that in a bit, but
and something that I'm picking up already is like something that you both commented is external perception of yourself, internal perception of yourself, what I think I should be doing, how well I think I should be, and what people are mirroring back to me, but also how I feel. and expectations. I feel possibly, I'm going to generalize, but I feel possibly as women, we are particularly good at putting huge amount of expectations on our shoulders.
Absolutely.
And still, you know, have nice hair or cook meals for our family or whatever, you know, hit certain standards, even when really the ground has been shaking under our feet.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I was just going to say, as you said about women, I was just thinking, you know, in terms of my journey and navigating also the idea of, you know, the strong Black woman archetype, which I've talked about in my work before. There is a resistance to acknowledging that you're out of capacity. There is no more capacity to give, you know, and that and when it's time to give to yourself, there's something about that, about serving others selflessly and leaving your tank on empty, and that is just not sustainable.
You've been talking about capacity, Cindy, recently.
And
very transparently, I don't have capacity.
And I think saying no, and I think, you know, my sense, having also, and I think in later conversations, I'll talk more about my journey this year, but just as healers, because we know where it comes from, we know source, we know whatever, it doesn't matter to say what you're feeling. And Sole will know, because I've kept very resilient. And I think it was on Tuesday, it was just like, I feel guilty and I don't care if that's a bad emotion. That's what I feel about this situation. Like I wanted to scream it from the roof, from the rooftop, to go, actually, it doesn't matter. I know guilt is a really bad emotion. It's really crap. It's really going to hurt me. I was feeling that. And actually to speak it and say it, and even as I say it now, actually that's okay. And we're not, you know, no one's writing a book about us being a healer. We're not, do you know what I'm saying? We're not the Christ consciousness walking on water. So stop trying.
Yeah. So we talked about change, and I think one pivotal moment that indirectly you have mentioned, and it really resonates with me, is that moment where you're like, okay, this is not working, I need help, or I need to change something. And typically it's, you know, for people that are so used to give help, asking for help seems such a unsurmountable task. At least it often feels like that for me. So will you share with us that moment of saying, okay, this is not working, I need to do something about it? So for you, Dunia, you know, you had quite a severe physical manifestation of your back. Like, I know because we talked while you were going through it that you were really in quite severe pain. What was the experience of reaching that pivotal moment, and what did you change? Was that a moment of surrender? Was that a moment of giving up? Like, how did it feel?
I don't think it was a moment of giving up. It was a moment of surrender, of admitting that I just needed loads of help. Not little help, I needed loads of help. And I've been told many times that I talk little about myself, and I was surprised. And then I realized maybe, yeah, I do actually talk little about myself, because in the past few years, because of the work I do, I've learned to listen. And I feel, and because I like to be professional, I rarely speak about myself. Now I try to keep myself detached now from my clients, from my work. And at one point I realized, okay, this is not working for me. I think I need help. I need people to listen to me. And I reached out to you, and I spoke with Cindy. I need to speak about my problem. I went to do psychotherapy, because I thought I'm going to take this from all the angles. I need a spiritual angle, I need a psychological angle, I need a physical, I need to approach it from, because I didn't know anymore what I was, I mean, I had symptoms everywhere. So I felt like I need to address it from every angle. And it's funny, actually, something you say to me, Sole, really, really resonated with me. You once told me, ask for help, ask your guides. And I realized actually that when I speak with my guides, I tend to ask for guidance for my clients most of the time. Rarely I ask for guidance for myself. I mean, I talk to them, but then at one point I said, okay, I'm not handling this very well. I need guidance. I need serious help, any kind of help in any field. And it's amazing how you get help when you ask for it. I mean, I felt really desperate, and I asked help to everyone. And even people I didn't know very well that I met in the street, and they were like, how are you? I was just very honest. I'm not well. My mother died. I'm going through loads of issues. And it's funny how amazing it is when you open up and suddenly you discover a whole world of people that are very good people, very generous, very kind. They become present for you. And that was a great surprise, I have to say, for me. But I got through moments in which I even found myself sitting in a cafe, and when I asked for help, I mean, I'll never forget this. I had a very dark day, and I sat down in a cafe, and I was in a hopeful mood. This lady I knew walked past, and she sat down and she spoke to me, a lady I hadn't seen for ages, and she gave me loads of practical information that could help me that day. So it's funny how I would say my prayer was answered kind of immediately. So, and I got loads of things like that, very unexpected moments of people helping me. And also I got helps even for professionals, because I felt like I really needed it, to be honest. So it's the first time in my life that I open up. And I don't feel, it's amazing, I don't feel embarrassed about it. Actually, I felt when I asked for help, I felt like I was finally kind of centering myself, grounding myself in that request, in that almost demand, I want to say demand of help. It's my time to demand help. That's how I felt. And I didn't feel guilty at all. Going back to the sense of guilt, I felt like it was kind of my right, which is strange, but
yeah.
And I even at times find myself sharing bits of information with my clients that I never did before when I went back to work. And it's funny because even that done in the right way, in a way that is appropriate, was really helpful for my clients. So I'm actually starting to see that my work can have also can have something else added to it now.
I really want to kind of highlight a couple of things that you said. You said, I realized that I needed help, but not little help, big help, loads of help.
Yes.
And I think realizing the magnitude of the amount, depth, and quality of help that we need is extremely important. I want to highlight what you said about starting to tell your story, because very often we keep our story to ourselves, and actively asking for people to listen to your story and making that relevant, important, and a priority. And I want to highlight what you said around changing drastically a behavior. So you were never the chatty, let me talk about all my issues and all my problems type of person. And this situation made you flip the script in quite a dramatic way. And for the first time, so like, actually, now is the time that I'm going to tell my story, because I have an important story to tell and I need someone to listen to my story. And finally, the very direct, for as simple as this technique and intention is, of asking for help, whether it is people around you, spiritual guides, etc. So thank you, because you've given us so many points for reflection, I feel. So thank you. Sharice, you were nodding when we were talking about surrender.
Oh yes.
So I kind of want to get your point of view on, as a therapist, how have you how do you navigate that surrender? Because it's so good to surrender in our private life, but then how do we negotiate that with clients? How do you bring that energy into your work with other people as well? How have you been navigating that? What does it mean to you?
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one. I think for me, it's probably been easier to navigate with clients, but not with myself.
Interesting.
And similar to Dunya being unwell, I was unwell, and it meant that at that point I needed to ask for the help that I really needed. This time though, I wasn't as unwell as I could have been, because I recognized the pattern for me in my physical responses, my body when I'm overwhelmed, I'm burnt out, and I'm under pressure. So that surrender it's a letting go. It's like a letting go, and but also a grace that I afford my clients that I'm now having to give to myself, right? Because I'm also as worthy and deserving as they are. But for some reason, not for some reason, obviously there's a belief underneath somewhere why it's so difficult to really ask for those needs to be met. But I feel like I'm digressing. Am I digressing? Am I on?
Now it's a conversation. You digress as much as you like.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one.
Because that's the thing with as healers and therapists and intuitives, we're really good at holding space for other people. We're really good at understanding and preaching the concept of grace and compassion and kindness towards ourselves. But then when it comes, I think it's two things. When it comes to reflecting that back to ourselves, we're probably not quite as good. One. And I don't know if there is a little bit of a God complex that we have all the responsibility in the world. Maybe there is part of that. Maybe there is a bit of victim mentality. Maybe there is a little bit of over giving, the archetype of the overgiver somewhere. But then there is also the navigating the boundary, right? Staying professional, like referring back to what Dunya was saying, staying professional while you are actually in a very vulnerable position. And for you is you as an individual, you as a therapy, but also you as a mom, because navigating that with your children also must be another dimension added to that.
It absolutely is. Absolutely is.
So how do you stay grounded, boundaried, the point of reference, while going through that experience of actually I am the one in need of help?
I think this sort of last period of extreme overwhelm and burnout really helped me to root in the understanding that if I am not supported, then I cannot be of support to others in the capacity that I want to be. And it has forced me to slow down, because I think sometimes with uncertainty, there is a sense of urgency and a lack of safety. So it's ungrounded. It's like we don't know what we're doing, where we're going, what's going to happen, right? And for me, when I'm in that energy, I'm not making decisions very clearly. I'm discombobulated. I'm all over the place. So so this situation really helped me to pull in the resources and actually decide that at this time I need to up them. And I'm talking about self-care, like really down to basics. Like, am I eating well? Am I sleeping well? Do I have somebody that I trust that I can speak to? And that person that I can be like 100% myself with, no filter, no mask, so I can be completely raw and honest in my experience. I had to up everything. Everything had to be increased, and while that increased, I had to slow down. So I had to pull back on things that didn't really need too much of me, as best as possible, and plug into what did need. So me and my children were the priority, and that had to be okay. That just had to be okay. And that slowing down I feel like it has helped me to come into more of a harmony, more of a natural rhythm to the energy that I need to be in right now, because I'm also sensitive and open and tuning into the collective and what's going on outside, and you know, it's just a lot going on, right? But we're also in a season of autumn, and it's like all of those things, and yeah, giving myself that grace to navigate it.
And I think one point that you made that it's resonating so deeply is decision making. So I've always been in my entire life such a good decision maker. I always had great clarity, very comfortable taking risk, don't mind if things go wrong, I will figure it out. I've always been very confident. And what I've noticed, and I don't know if it's me allowing myself more tenderness, I don't know if it's age, I don't know if it's maybe life chipping away at me a little bit sometimes. But what I've noticed is the overwhelm around change manifests for me with a inability to make decisions. And actually, Cindy, we were talking about decisions around building a desk the other day, that you were thinking about whether you should buy a big desk or a small desk, and it seemed like such a big decision. And that is paralyzing, and it makes you feel so less than and unworthy. And actually, all you need to realize is I'm not stupid. I have great clarity. I have great courage. I have confidence. I just have too much on. So I need to dial down everything, as you were saying, go back to myself and my children, so that then I have the bandwidth of seeing clearly what is it that I need. But if you don't step away, then it's crippling, because then your confidence just hits rock bottom and you think, God, I can't even decide this very small thing. And I also loved what you said around, I cannot be, if I'm not supported, I cannot be of support to others. I think that's,
definitely not in the way that I want to be, you know, not with the integrity that I really want to have. And I loved what you said, extending on what you said about not being able to make the decisions, and it made me think about how change in itself brings up the unknown. No matter how big or how small, and no matter how much we think we have control over it. And I think the anxiety in change for me has been about the unknown, and not really wanting to make the best decision possible, wanting to do the right thing, right? But with the idea that I'm going to have some control of the outcome. But in reality, I don't. And some of being in surrender has been about letting go of that too, right? Letting go of the need to know, and the slowing down has sort of grounded me more so that I can be more rooted in my resilience around what the changes are.
I have an interesting question, and there's been some good comments coming up in the chat. Keep them coming, and I've pegged a few that we can ask at the end. But I'm curious about control, and I'm curious about being intuitive, because this is something that has been coming up for me recently around and work I've been doing with my clients and myself in this is, okay, state of emergency. What can I hand over? What can I give to Sally? What can I give to Josh? What can I give to Sally? And what can I give to Sally? Only joking. But what can I give to Josh? But what can I actually surrender my control of? And also being intuitive, kind of knowing that when you let go of that, it might not go quite the way you want to hold on to the reins, right? And so I'm just putting this out there because, you know, so we kind of know, and we have a sense of where this might go. we have to surrender that, even if intuitively we see it going in a way, we have to give the control, because also we sometimes, with the people closest to us, with our intuitivity, and even as a child, remembering stopping the argument, stopping this, foreseeing this, for doing that. And so being psychics and intuitive, we kind of want to hold things and help them. And you know what? That burns us out, right?
Oh, it does.
Yeah, you can see your father going down a route, Jenny. You can see your sister going down a route, but you actually, as somebody said, you can't even put your own oxygen mask on. You got to let go of control.
I did. It was, I think it was the toughest thing. I mean, 2 weeks after my mother's death, I had to put my feet down and say, I cannot take my mother's place. I understand that I'm the child that is not married and I don't have kids. I have apparently less responsibility, but I have a life, you know. I cannot support all of you. And that was a very tough thing, because I tend to be generous. At times I feel what's the right thing to do. At times I know what the other person is feeling, so I feel like I want to do something for them. But then I say, okay, no, maybe everybody needs to learn to cope with their own pain, and they need to do it on their own. I cannot fix their pain. I still don't understand mine. So I'm not positioned to help them as much as they want. And I don't think it's fair, because I actually got to a very, it's weird maybe that I'm saying this, but I thought maybe there is a reason if my mother is gone before my father. Maybe my father needs to learn something that he never learned before. It would have been too easier if my mother had stayed, because spiritually speaking, my mother was, I don't want to say she figured it all out, but she had lots going on. What I think my father is going through certain things. So putting boundaries there, it was really tough. It was really tough, but I thought, okay, this is not just about me. It's also about them. They need to figure it out on their own. And then in terms of letting go of control, I started to let go of control about little things. Like I started to think, okay, what's the priority here for me? The little things I don't even want to think about. If a friend invited me, this is just a stupid example. If a friend invited me, I just would say, I don't want to think about anything. You choose the place, you come to pick me up. I don't want to drive. I don't want to think about a parking place. I don't want to think where we go. I don't want to think about. So I got to the point where I ended up saying all these things. You know, I just can't do this now. I can choose even the restaurant when we go to eat, and I don't want to do it because it's not important to me right now. So I'm gonna focus my energy on something that is more important to me.
Can I pick up, because something that I feel both of you have mentioned in different ways is starting small, and certain things seem quite inconsequential, but like the big help, my feeling from what you're saying is when you need big help, you need to start small somewhere. So on the subject of starting small, I wonder if in any way, and absolutely it's okay if that's not the case, but did you feel that grounding yourself in gratitude, even for small things, has been helpful along the way to bring a little bit of peace and harmony, or has it been annoying?
Okay, I'll be very honest. It was annoying to me.
Okay.
Because it's funny. I know the theory very well. And then there were some days where I would get really angry and think, okay, what do I need to be grateful about today? I don't feel really grateful at all. So I would go back to the praying part. I would go like, okay, today I feel like my mood is very low. I feel a bit oppressed. I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel motivated. I don't even feel grateful. Okay, somebody has to help me to understand what I need to be grateful about here, because I'm not getting it at all. And it's funny because usually I get the answer within 24 hours. I get like even a perfect stranger doing a kind gesture. And so I would keep it simple. I need to keep it simple in these circumstances. I cannot go like, okay, I'm grateful for massive things. I'm grateful for that stranger coming to me and saying something nice to me out of the blue. I'm grateful for the fact that my friend thought about me and she knows that I'm not well and she gave me a call. So very little things, very small things.
Yeah, sure is. What do you think? How do you feel about gratitude?
Similar to Dunya, there were times where I wasn't able to reach it, and actually it then became something that I beat myself up about not being able to. So it didn't really help in some time. You know, it's a double-edged sword. But on days that I could, it was helpful, and it was small things. It wasn't big things. It was, you know, grateful that I was able to do the food shopping, or the bus arrived on time. It was grasping actually at times at what was showing up in a way that was helpful to me, and that I could perceive it as something to be grateful for, because there were days that I couldn't see gratitude.
Yes.
However, it is helpful when you're in it, but it can't be forced. It just can't.
Yeah. And as you said, it can become actually another thing to beat yourself about. Because you read the news and you think, well, we're so blessed with everything that we have, and we're so fortunate. But then it becomes another thing to feel disappointed about. Why can't I feel grateful about this? Yeah. So I have, before we bring everything to a close and we see if there are questions and so on, I have 2 questions that I want to ask both of you. So I'm hoping we can squeeze this in. The first one is, you've been so generous sharing your stories, and I am so grateful. What would you share and suggest to others, to people that are going through, whether it's loss or just a huge amount of change, people that are juggling being a parent, being a healer, being a daughter? What would you suggest to them? Like, as a friend, a piece of advice, a piece of kindness to share with us, others. What would you share from your own experience, not from the books, not from what you're supposed to say or supposed to do? What would you say to maybe people that are watching the recording, or they're here with us this evening?
I think for me, I would advise people to connect to themselves. I think I feel like that has been the gateway for me, is deepening how connected I am to me. And in honoring that, I can be more in tune with my needs. And yeah, compassion. I would say, you know, some compassion. And how resourced are you? You know, what is the support network that you have in place? And if there isn't one, how can you create one? And maybe it's not physical people, maybe it's go-to self-care tools and habits. I don't know if it's journaling or affirmations. Affirmations, I think, are really powerful. I use them a lot.
Will you give us one that you use off the top of your head?
So I love knowing that I cannot get it wrong.
I love that. Beautiful.
I'm a bit of a perfectionist. That one helps me.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's that, really coming back to yourself as best as possible, and really tuning into what your internal rhythm is, and I think with that you can find your way. You find what you need.
Yeah, thank you. Dunya, what would you share from your experience?
From my experience, from my darkest days, I would say that the thing that helped me the most was walking. Whenever things got really tough, I would go out and walk. And if I have more time, I go to the park. I have a park nearby, and I walk for 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. But even if I don't have that much time, I go out even half an hour. I have a theory that when we walk, our body kind of reaches the speed of our thoughts, and everything inside of us levels up. So every time I'm overwhelmed by my thoughts, by my emotion, I feel sad, angry, I go out for a long walk. And when I come back home, I'm a different person. And lately, I've been also listening to affirmations while I walk. Affirmations work wonders with me. They might not work for everybody, but I mean, for example, on YouTube, there are thousands of videos with affirmations. Sometimes I just put my headphones and I listen to the affirmation, because right now I'm not in the right space for meditating. At times it gets me really, it makes me really fidgety, you know that. I mean, I can meditate a lot even on my own, but now at times I feel like I want to get out of my body when I start to meditate. But actually, when I listen to affirmation, it's like having a soft spoken positive voice talking to me, and it feels very intimate. I don't feel like I need to share. So when it gets really dark, I feel like I'm in this soft, intimate space where somebody's saying something nice to me. And then I'm walking and I feel like everything slows down because my body's speeding up, and that works wonders for me. So I would say, people, walk whenever you feel sad.
I love that. I love walking. Yes, beautiful.
Yeah. Can I ask you a quick final question? What's next in your beautiful journey?
Ooh. Ooh. Who should go next? Cherise, you go.
And I'm like, clear my throat. What's next? In our lives, in
your beautiful healing journey, however you want to interpret that.
Wow, yeah, I don't know how to answer that really. I think what I offered about that connection, that deeper connection to self, this period of time for me has been really really healing and revealing, and really helped me to see how deep my roots are and how anchored I really am. And it feels like a bit of like a compass now for as I move forward, you know, the idea. I love rooted resilience, because I think it's exactly that. It's like the deeper the connection to me, the deeper the connection to earth and spirit, you know, the deeper my roots, the more sustainable my wellness can be, and the more I can offer in the work that I do. So yeah, I don't know.
We'll have to invite you back. Dunia, what's next?
It's a tough one, because it's funny. It's the first time in my life I don't feel very ambitious. I feel like in a very conservative space in a way. You know, I feel like I need to preserve my energy. So I would say that the first big task is going to be tidying up. I'm reorganizing my house, and I feel it's needed, because I feel like it's getting out of hand, and somehow it mirrors how I feel. So I thought, okay, I cannot yet organize myself. Maybe I can start from my space.
Yes.
Maybe reorganizing my space, I can slowly start to reorganize my work, because I had lots of ideas before all this happened. I had huge plans. Although I have to say, I was at the beginning of the year, was feeling very anxious somehow. So maybe there was something for me to pay attention to. But I don't know, now all my plans have, I don't know, I just don't feel I can get to them. I don't feel like right now I can be that ambitious to achieve them. So I think I'm going to start from my space, the space I leave, so then I can reorganize my work, and then slowly maybe can reorganize everything. So I'm going to have a soft approach in that too.
Yes. So I know that there's been some beautiful comments and questions in the chat. Before we go back to them, I'm going to briefly hand over to Cindy to kind of continue on the theme of connection and connecting with each other, because we have a couple of events coming up, and then we'll come back to our beautiful friends and guests this evening, first of all to thank them properly, but then to see if there are any other questions or comments in the chat that we want to pick up on.
So thank you both for sharing that, and really kind of thing, making us feel okay, just making us feel okay with where we're at, and it's okay no matter whether we're healers or intuitives or whatever, just it's okay. to feel unhinged, but to be resilient through different ways. So I'm just going to talk about what's coming up. I'm really excited. We're back to doing monthly talks at the school, because we too have paused for a few months and done some of the suggested things while I have been going through challenging times. So that is really, pausing is really important. But we're back on track, and we are delighted. We're having 2 live events, which we are finding more and more important, that people are connecting in person. And therefore, we are focusing where we can reach everybody, but that there are places where we can connect. So we have an open day in Cape Town, which is going to be loads of fun. We will have psychic readings, mediumship readings, animal communication and healing readings. We have somebody doing breath work. We have a sound healer. We have talks. So it will be a great day in Cape Town. The sun is going to shine. We will have boerewors and vegan rolls. And that is the last Sunday of November. I then jump on an aeroplane and I come to London, where I do a day with Sole with the healing students. And then on Tuesday, the first Tuesday of December, we're going to have a connection evening with mince pies, mulled wine, reflection, connection, and love. So please put those dates in the diary book so you're not disappointed, especially the Cape Town event that fills up really quickly. And we then also really pleased to announce that the healing course in London is going to start taking place in person again. Sole and I are going to be at the helm of that. So if you know people who have missed out on the 2-year healing course, it's the same healing course that the school has always done, but we're going to be doing that in person, as well as we will also do one in person in Cape Town. So just to let you know, really excited about that, really excited to see you all in the flesh. And those of you that are afar, we still have lots of events for you, but I'm not going to go into those tonight, because otherwise everyone's going to drop off the call, and there's some important questions to ask. So Sole, back to you. Thank you everyone from my side. But I hand back to you, Sole, with the questions, unless you'd like me to ask a couple of the questions I've seen.
Yes, I'm going to thank Cherise and Dunya first. And I just want to highlight what really resonated for me in the comments is how many people have commented that they're appreciating your unedited, unscripted, and raw stories, because they make them feel like there are other people, other women that perhaps are going through similar things. So I just want to just really express my gratitude for how generous you've been this evening, sharing your stories, and for your trust in us when we invited and we said, come, we're going to chat about very private, personal things, for saying yes and sharing this space with us. So thank you so much. But yes, Cindy, if you picked up on anything that you wanted to ask, any interesting points that people have raised, or that
there's one specific question.
Mm-hmm.
Releasing the rescuer in me and focusing on myself is terrifying and overwhelming. Any suggestions from either of you? It's such a good question.
It's such a good one. I'm also a recovering people pleaser and rescuer, so I think what has been helpful for me, and maybe that could be helpful for you, is to understand the rescuer in me more, to get curious as to why I rescue. What does it do for me as well? What is, because it's serving you and serving the other person. So I would start there. Start with being curious.
Yes,
very good.
Yeah,
I just also want to acknowledge that it is terrifying and overwhelming as well. I really appreciate that, because it is, and if it's a way that you used to being, then changing that is going to take some time, but also I would recommend being supported through it.
Yeah,
That's a lovely answer. I have another question that came right in the beginning. I feel uprooted and all at sea with my practice. Who am I as a healer? And what does that mean?
Julia, you were referring to this earlier, actually.
In when I mentioned what?
When you mentioned you had to take a break and then you came back into work, and then the universe brought you exactly the right client for you at that time, and then you found yourself actually sharing a little bit more still within the. So how did you navigate that?
Well, I guess that was the only moment where I used grace, probably. It's easier for me to use grace with my clients than with myself, but I felt like my story could be helpful at the time. Mm-hmm. So, because when this lady, for example, shared her pain for mother's death, I said, okay, I understand that. And I didn't just say it because, you know, I understand your pain, generally speaking, and say, I understand that because I'm going exactly through the same thing. Mm-hmm. And it's something that if you haven't experienced, you cannot possibly understand. And she was relieved by that. Mm-hmm. Because I have to say that there were days in which I met people that would say, oh, I'm really sorry for your situation. And I didn't feel the sorrow. And at the same time, I thought that in the past, maybe I was superficial with other people's pain because I didn't understand it. So when I say to other people who lost their parents in the past, I would say, I'm sorry, but maybe after 2 months, I was expecting them to be back to the beginning, now to be back to normal. And that wasn't the case because their parents were still missing. So I felt like my experience, my pain was bringing me to another place of understanding that I didn't have before at all. Mm. So
I love that, Junior. I'd like to add another dimension to that around this as healers. We experience more so that we can facilitate more. There's no question that what we are going through ourselves, we will share with others. And we need, and I think that as the universe is upping the speed and as the collective is swinging between the shadow and the light, as the shadow might be growing, so the light has to grow. We need to grow. We need to upgrade continually through what we're learning. So healers are continually wounded healers, looking for how do we navigate this? Why are we having this conversation tonight? Is to share that we're not walking on water. We are human beings. And we're experienced, and the more we experience, the more we have to share, and how we can experience. The more we experience, the more we can support people through our experience in healing our own wounds.
And perhaps it's time to update the archetype of the perfect healer that stands on a pedestal with, you know, white little spotless dress that is unstained, it's holy and perfect, and everything is in place. Right. I think it's time to go. I think it's time to say thank you again. Beyond what words can express, to our wonderful friends and guests this evening. Thank you, Cherise. Thank you, Dunia. Thank you, Cindy, for being part of this beautiful conversation this evening. This conversation has been recorded, so you will receive an email tomorrow in your inbox if you want to go back and listen to these beautiful stories again. Please make sure to also book your tickets to come and see us in person in Cape Town or in London very soon. And with that said, have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, one and all. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye.